If Darwinian theory is such a poor theory, why don't more scientists reject it?
There are two reasons why more scientists don't reject it. One is that if they did, they would lose all of their prestige within science. They would never get another research grant. And if they didn't have academic tenure, they'd get fired. There is a system of thought control over this, which is extremely rigid. It's worth your professional life. That's another reason why an outsider has to be the one to challenge this. So that's reason number one. There's an enforcement mechanism. And even senior people are frightened about it, and they'll tell you if you get them aside where they don't think they're being overheard. The second reason is ideological. The great problem is that if Darwinism isn't true, science doesn't know what is true. You see, if the microevolution explanation isn't extrapolated to explain all of creation, then they don't know how it could have happened, and that's intolerable. All of the philosophers of science that are writing for the modern era have explained that science doesn't like to have no answer. You see, they will prefer to stick with an inadequate paradigm or general theory rather than to say, well, we just don't know what it is, because then they don't have any place to start proposing experiments, drafting proposals for research grants, and so on. So they'll stick with the false theory if the only alternative is no theory at all, and that's the situation that they're in.
Hello. You're probably wondering what I'm doing here. After all, even though I've done my time in the classroom as student and as teacher, I'm better known as a writer, public speaker, social activist, game show host, even a speechwriter for Presidents Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. Despite everything else I've done, though, I'm probably best known as an actor, and particularly for this role. Bueller. Life has been very good to me, and I'm very grateful. Like most people, I also have questions, very big questions, like how did we get here? Where are we going? Is there a meaning and purpose in life? Or are we, the universe, and everything in it, merely the result of pure dumb fate and chance? For most of my life, I believe the answers to these questions were fairly straightforward. Everything that exists was created by a loving God. That includes rocks, trees, animals, people, really everything. All along, I've been well aware that other people, very smart people, believe otherwise. Rather than God's handiwork, they see the universe as the product of random particle collisions and chemical reactions. And rather than regard humankind as carrying the spark of the divine, they believe we're nothing more than mud animated by lightning. Somehow, that mud found a way to grow, reproduce, swim, crawl, breathe, walk, and eventually think. I have no problem if people want to believe that sort of thing. After all, we believe in a free society. This isn't Nazi Germany. People are entitled here to believe and say whatever they want about belief in God and the development of life. At least, that's what I used to think. This is Dr. Richard von Sternberg, mild-mannered research scientist. Until 2005, he also edited a small scientific journal affiliated with the Smithsonian Institution in Washington until he published an article by this man. As a result, Dr. Sternberg quickly found himself the object of a massive campaign that smeared his reputation and came close to destroying his career.
After the publication of the Meyer article, the climate changed. It moved from being chilly to being outright hostile. Shunned, yes, and discredited. What I'm asking for is the freedom to follow the evidence wherever it leads.
What was so damning about this article? Nothing, as far as I could tell. It merely suggested that perhaps we aren't mud animated by lightning after all. Dr. Meyer argued that there are signs of intelligent design in nature. The digital code in our DNA could not have come about by accident. Instead of a cosmic mistake, he says the evidence seems to indicate that we are the product of a higher intelligence. Publishing Dr. Meyer's paper would not have been an issue if we were living in the time of Galileo or Einstein. But unfortunately for Dr. Sternberg, we live in a very different era. This is the era of Darwin, and in such an era, those who challenge the status quo seldom go unpunished. As I investigated this situation, I discovered Dr. Sternberg is far from alone. Many other scientists face similar persecution. They're losing their jobs, they can't get tenure, they're denied publication in scientific journals, and they're openly ridiculed and ostracized by their peers, all for questioning Darwin.
It's the kind of thing where you just learn to keep your mouth shut.
I have been told to shut up.
We were accused of being diabolical, theocratic conspirators who were trying to force religion into the classroom.
It isn't just scientists attacking these guys either. The media's in on it, courts, the educational system, everyone's after them. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. After all, these guys are asking some pretty dangerous questions, suggesting that Darwinism is not only improbable, it might actually be dangerous. I should know better than to ask such questions. After all, I've been warned.
On the whole, they're not scientists. Intelligent design is not a research program.
And it's all propaganda.
They're distracting you from what's important.
If there is somebody who elevates faith or scripture above evidence, then he should be fired from the science department, yes.
The more I thought about the situation, the more I wondered why we tolerate free speech in every other area of the society, but not here. What makes this situation so different? In my experience, people who are confident in their ideas are not afraid of criticism. So that tells me the Darwinists are afraid. They're hiding something.
We're so schizophrenic. We talk about things being designed and optimized, but then when you ask us, especially in public, we're all about defending neo-Darwinism.
I now realize it's my duty to get the word out, to warn others before it's too late. So I'm going to begin by warning you. Feel free to watch this film if you must, and I hope you do. But you've got to know that doing so could land you in a heap of trouble. Some of you are going to lose your friends for watching this film. Some of you may even lose your jobs. In fact, if you're a scientist with any hope of a future, I suggest you leave right now. College or high school students, especially teachers, legislators, journalists, anyone else with a stake in this debate should probably leave right now as well. But if you do leave, will anyone be left to fight this battle? Anyone? Anyone? Hi, I'm Ben Stein. Today, across our great nation, teachers and students are being bullied and silenced merely for asking questions about Darwinist and neo-Darwinist theories of evolution. Since the release of Expelled, countless kind people have asked me, what can we do to make a difference, to stand up for change, to stand up for freedom of speech? Well, here's an idea. The Academic Freedom Petition is making real change. As millions of people across this great nation demand change, They're standing up and asking for real freedom of speech. For freedom of speech for professors, researchers, students, teachers. They want free speech that works in practice, in the classroom, in the schools, not just a theory, real freedom of speech that protects freedom of inquiry everywhere in this country. The Academic Freedom Petition will return freedom of speech to the classroom. We're not against anyone. We're not trying to silence anyone. We just want everyone to be heard, if only to question. Surely this is part of the Constitution. If you will please go to the bottom of this message, note the website, go to your computer, go to that website, and express your feeling that you want your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to have the freedom of speech that Americans died for. You'll be doing a good day's work today. Thank you very much, and we hope you have had a good time watching the movie, and God bless you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
For I am well aware that scarcely a single point is discussed in this volume on which facts cannot be adduced, often apparently leading to conclusions directly opposite to those at which I have arrived. A fair result can be obtained only by fully stating and balancing the facts and arguments on both sides of each question, and this cannot possibly be here done.